Welcome everyone. Welcome to our student panel. Today we are hosting one of our series that we started this semester, the Did You Know series, which seeks to promote religious literacy on campus by inviting students from various faiths to share their experiences on campus and how they live the experiences of faith, how they relate with other faiths, and how they participate to see their faith growing and improving on campus, and even the challenges that they're going through. And so today we are privileged to host the Jewish students who will share their experiences from various clubs. What we do really enjoy in these particular meetings is hearing the experiences, unique experiences of students from, even though they come from the same faith, but even the diversity, the various clubs from within the same faith. And so tonight we have students from various clubs within the Jewish faith. We have representative from McGill, McGill Jewish Law Students Association, we have representative from McGill, and we have McGill. And we also have other groups that we invited, but because of the business at the end of the semester, some of them were not able to send their representative tonight. However, in the future, they'll be able to participate. And so, before we do the introduction, I would like to extend this time to invite Colleen to introduce us.
Yes, hi, and I'd like to echo what Matthew said and welcome everyone to this event. My name is Carleen Gardner. Here I am. I'm the director of McGill's Office of Religious and Spiritual Life, and I'm really glad to be able to see everyone joining us both in person and online for this third edition of our Did You Know series that we've had this winter. That takes a look into the role of religion and spirituality on campus. And it's through the eyes of some of the most important people on our campus, which is, of course, our students. But before we dive into this topic tonight, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the land where McGill University is located. This is land which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange amongst Indigenous people, including the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe nations. And we hope that tonight we will continue in this long and sacred tradition of exchange, not as traders of goods, but as seekers of understanding. We honor, recognize, and respect the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe nations as the traditional stewards of the lands and waters on which we meet today. And if you're an immigrant or a descendant of settlers like me, I invite you to join me in reflecting on the long connection that Indigenous nations have with this land, and to consider how our own selves have been shaped by the lands that we and our ancestors belong to. By honoring these connections and by opening ourselves to learning more about our Indigenous neighbors, may we forge new connections together and move ahead on the path towards reconciliation. And I realize that not all of us are in Montreal, and we'll leave some resources for further exploration. The McGill Indigenous Resources page is a fabulous source for getting to know local communities. And of course, there's a great app for your phone called Whose Land, which you can use no matter where you're traveling to be able to know more about the traditional stewards of the land that you may be visiting. So now for our panel tonight, this Did You Know series ties into a couple of different areas of the work that Morsel does at McGill. First of all, it helps to increase the level of knowledge and awareness of different religious and spiritual traditions, while honoring the internal diversity, as Matthew mentioned, of each of the faiths and the unique experiences and perspectives of each student. Another reason why this kind of event is important is that it generates opportunities to get to know each other better, to connect with other students for whom faith matters. And third, discussions like tonight's panel allow us to add layers and even more dimensions to religious and spiritual life as we witness the role faith plays in the personal and public life of students. So some of you may know that this is actually our third installment in our series this winter. We began in January by hearing from 4 Muslim students from different groups on campus. Then in February, we heard from 4 Christian groups, again from various perspectives within that tradition. And tonight we have the privilege of listening to a diverse group of Jewish students who will be talking about their achievements, contributions, aspirations, and concerns as leaders in their community. which is a role they take on in addition to being students at McGill. In each one of these panel discussions we've held this term, we've cast our net as wide as we could, inviting students from both official and unofficial faith-based groups. And in each case, there were students willing and able to respond to our invitation and join us on these student panels. And we're very grateful for your participation tonight. We hope that as you listen to your peers, your fellow travelers in this journey through university studies, that you find connections with your own experiences and hopes, and that you come away from this discussion with an even richer view of the many dimensions of religious and spiritual life on campus. And without further ado, I'm going to turn the floor over to Matthew to kick off some introductions.
Thank you so much, Colleen. Thank you. Now, we are so privileged to have the best team that could come tonight, wonderful people, to join us and speak about their experiences as people practicing the Jewish faith. And so we're going to start with introduction. And please tell us your name, what you study, what group you represent, and what year of your program, what level of your program are you in currently. And then after that, I'll start into the discussion tonight. Let's start right here next to me.
All right, so my name is Avia Kami. I'm a second year. I study religious studies and art history. And I'm here on behalf of Hillel, which is a lovely student group with a house located just on Stanley. But I try to be as involved as possible. So.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Allison, and I'm here representing McGill. I'm a music and psychology major, and
hi, my name is Adam. I'm representing the Jewish Law Students Association. I'm the current co-president with one other student, and we work to ensure Jewish life on campus specifically within the McGill faculty. And yeah, I'm in my third year, and I'll be completing my degree in 4 years. So next year is my last year.
Thank you. Let's hear from.
Hi, I'm Ben. I am first year. I'm speaking as a member of the McGill Favora.
Thank you so much. I guess I didn't mention my name. My name is Matthew Bricken, and I'm the programming associate with MOSO, the Office of Religious and Spiritual Life on campus. Such a privilege to have you tonight, friends. So let's start with Avia. Tell us a little bit about your group, the origin of your group. How did it start? Do you know the history of the group? And what inspired the group to grow on campus?
So Hillel is the biggest Jewish campus organization in the world. It was started in the 1920s, almost 100 years ago, at American campuses. I know that at McGill, or in Canada, there was stuff going on here in the 40s and 50s. And there are also like photos of McGill Hillel in the 80s. So it's been pretty far back. Our Hillel McGill is fairly recently adopted by Jewish Federation, which is an institution that controls or runs a lot of programs in Montreal, or for each local community that has a federation. So Federation adopted Hillel Montreal, I think 6 years ago. That's like our larger organization. But yeah, we're on almost every campus.
This group on campus, what does it do?
Its goal is to provide a space for Jewish students to be Jewish, provide activities. There are staff members, so it's an organized group. It's basically a resource to provide Jewish life.
So students who practice Jewish faith from different clubs on campus are welcome to
Absolutely.
to come to.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff we do, sometimes it's more faith-based, more religious, but also a lot of social events, cultural events, stuff like that. It's important to students everywhere.
That's beautiful. To be Jewish, she says. I like that. Alison, I'm McGill.
organization only started a couple years back. We're one of the major Jewish groups on campus, and I guess the reason why we make McGill happen is because we want there to be a I guess, reform Jewish group. Although everyone is welcome to come to our events. Most of our events are more social, although we do some faith-based programming.
McGill is a Hebrew. Is a Hebrew word, right? What does it mean?
Jews of McGill,
Jews of McGill.
people of McGill.
People of McGill. That's beautiful. How old is the club on campus, if you know?
6 or 7 years, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. That's beautiful. So seeking to be reformed, open to every other, every group on campus, Jewish groups on campus to come, and very social, but also very spiritual. That's beautiful.
It's also very student-led. It's very a bit of a smaller group than some of the organizations. So it's not like a national, not like or international type group like Chabad or Hillel. It's more local to McGill.
So it's local to Montreal or local only to McGill?
Mostly to McGill, but sometimes we do have people from too.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. Adam.
Yeah.
The lawyer in the room.
Yeah, I know it's a Jewish stereotype of Jewish lawyer. I know. It wouldn't be a Jewish event without it. I know. But yeah, actually, the origins of the Jewish Law Student Association aren't just because there was so many Jewish lawyers. Actually, at least at McGill, it started out of a place of solidarity. So in the 1920s, McGill had serious anti-Semitic policies in place to the point where they limited the number of Jewish people allowed into McGill. In general, in the arts faculty, the education faculty, and in the law and medicine faculties. And what ended up happening was the percentage of students within the McGill faculty of law was 10%. So there could never be more than 10, the student cohort could never surpass 10% worth being of Jews, right? So the Jewish Law Students Association, from my understanding, came about in McGill to have a few Jewish students within the faculty kind of having a place of solidarity, I suppose companionship. And that happened as well, from my understanding, that's the same reason why the Jewish Law Students Association at Harvard and at Yale came to be, because they had similar quotas. Now, over time, of course, these quotas went away. I mean, there are significant, I would guess that there's more than 10% of the student body at McGill Law is greater, there's more Jews than 10% of the student body. So obviously those quotas are gone. So now the club has been on and off in terms of activity, and every time there's a new president, they take on different mandates. Some of them being a little more passive, where they just want to be present in case students want to meet other Jews on campus. But my administration has taken on a little bit more of an active role within the community, both within the McGill community and beyond, whether it be ensuring that the Jewish students are represented, like their interests are represented during the high holidays. So we'll be the ones to submit the formal requests for all Jewish students when they want to take the high holidays off. We'll try to ensure that there are some accommodations during Passover, let's say, or during Yom Kippur, where many students will be leaving. We also try to organize some interfaith panels where we've organized a couple this year and last year over Zoom or in person. I mean, ideally in person, but mostly over Zoom. And this year we've taken on a little bit more of an approach of being a little more getting out there into the community. We've worked really hard to make sure the McGill law community within our group is well taken care of. But now we're trying to get ourselves out there into the Montreal community. We do some volunteering events. We have some Shabbat dinners, and just to really introduce the JLSA to the rest of the Montreal community. So that's in a nutshell what we've been up to.
That's beautiful. This idea of solidarity, bringing people together, and even acting on behalf of people. You're already starting to practice law before you graduate.
Yeah, exactly. And there are a lot of interwoven relationships between the law and Judaism, right? Judaism has its whole sect of law, and it creates for really interesting dialogues within the JLSA.
It's interesting to hear, maybe in another conversation, how the Jewish law intersects with the law that you're studying.
Love to discuss that.
Yeah, how beautiful to hear more about that. McGill Havura.
Yeah.
Welcome, Ben. Tell us a bit about Havura. It's history. Why are you guys on campus?
So we like our history at the McGill Chavurah. This is actually, I'm pulling from a spiel, a talk that someone I know gives at most of our meetings. It's just a fun little the origins of it are fun. So McGill Chavurah comes from an organization that was called Ghetto Show, that was hosted in the McGill ghetto. And it was founded in about 2005 by a rabbi named Levish Hundert. It really offered like sort of a spiritual experience for people who were looking for a Jewish experience with less institutional rigidity around it. It was hosted out of one of the brownstones on Park. They had a cafe that they ran, and it would bring really tons and tons of people, especially I think like Saturdays, Friday nights. Levish Hundert made Aliyah in 2015, so he moved to Israel. So the movement, because students love this movement so much, they continued to, they wanted to keep going. So they've been working for a while. They were hosted in Bag Street Shul. That's no longer the case. Now we sort of operate out of people's homes. And the emphasis for the McGill Chavurah is on a democratic, non-hierarchical student community that's oriented towards really spiritual activity. That's been the main focus. But also giving students an opportunity to lead whatever kind of events they want to lead, right? Encouraging community members to get involved. You know, and again, no rigid institutional structure. So if you want to do something, you take that initiative, you ask other people, and if they're interested in it, go for it. And that's generally meant Kabbalat Shabbat. So we gather, we have a potluck at someone's house, and we bring in the Shabbat together. And also sometimes, you know, we do learning and sometimes social events also. There was a skating event earlier this year.
That's really beautiful. I like this idea of bringing Shabbat to people's homes, you know, and having fellowship there. I think that is really something that speaks volumes about the group. Does your group, is it open to students of Jewish faith from maybe conservative circles? Because you talk about rigidity there.
The way that we can talk about sort of everyone is welcome, okay, right? And some people are comfortable with certain services and some people are not. Okay. The chavurahs are usually, or they're egalitarian. So men and women pray together. There's also something to be said about the food, which simply like because it's a potluck, because we want people bringing their own food, that generally means that it is not strictly kosher food. It's vegetarian food. Again, if people are not comfortable with that, they can come and talk to us, talk to the group, find someone. I have a kosher kitchen. So this is how we would function in that type of situation is I can make you a kosher meal that we put on the side and you eat that kosher meal from my kosher dishes.
That's really beautiful. But even within that diversity, sort of they care for the different, groups within the Jewish faith. Thank you so much for sharing these introductory remarks about your groups and the background and the history. They seem to really speak about the needs that you saw and the students are going through, and there was need to address some of them. I want to invite Colleen to delve a little bit, to explore a little bit the mission of the group and why you exist.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's so fascinating to see and hear all the different histories of the groups, seeing how you've been connected either with broader organizations or with McGill students or with different rabbis in neighborhoods. It's really interesting to see all of this unfold. And I know that every year you've got maybe some different execs on the clubs and things change over time. And of course, the last few years have been particularly challenging and pretty unique. And I don't think anyone was prepared for remote school and remote worship and everything else. But I want to kind of continue on what Matthew was asking about the needs that you're responding to. What are some of the things you're really focusing on today? Like, what do you see as your purpose or your mission being on campus, being a student club on campus? And we're not going to hold you to this. I mean, I know we're recording it, but every year is different, right? So, just if you could just give us a few examples of some of the things that, you really feel these are needs that you're, rising up to meet right now. And I'll start with anybody who's willing to take up the question.
Sure. I mean, I have a personal goal. I'm working with Hillel to try and accomplish that. My personal goal is to see the return of an egalitarian minyan, which is a prayer group, to downtown Montreal. The only option currently is Chabad, which, as Ben mentioned, men and women pray separately. There are kind of different rules as to who is allowed to partake in what. And in an egalitarian prayer space, people are equal. It's a different way of praying, and that doesn't exist here. So I'm trying very hard. I would love to see that come back. Something that still adheres to halacha, which is Jewish law and tradition, but with an aspect of gender equality.
It's really interesting because that's, really topical today with today's generation where we're looking at, moving away from binaries in a lot of ways to begin with, and then also creating more equal egalitarian spaces. I think that ties in a lot with, general equity, diversity, inclusion of campuses.
Yeah, and something that comes to that is spaces, you said. And so Hillel has a house. We have a downtown house. There's a Hillel board on almost every campus and every university, even the CEGEPs in the city. And there's a whole building for us to gather in. Let's do something with it. Let's do it.
Awesome, thank you. Allison, you want to tell us about McGill? This grassroots little baby that started out, the baby of the group, right?
So McGill, like I said a bit earlier, it started because we felt that there was a need to have a more reform Jewish organization on campus, rather than just, we are sort of egalitarian, pluralistic, but mainly the traditions that we do follow are reform. I know personally, I grew up in a conservative Jewish family, and it wasn't really my thing necessarily. And I went to my friend's bat mitzvah when I was 13, and it was at a Reform synagogue. And I was so surprised because it was so different than what I had grown up with, and I just really resonated with it. And I said, oh, I really want to get involved in, more Reform Judaism. And so when I came to McGill, I was so happy to see that existed and that it was more Reform group, Yeah.
Yeah, so it's feeling kind of it came in and offered something that hadn't been there before. We had sort of broad-based Jewish groups like Hillel, Chabad, and for sure, and the Havurah being housed in the Back Street Shul for a while, if I recall. But this was a connection with a Reform group. I don't think that was quite formalized. I'm sure there were plenty of Reform students, but kind of spread in different groups. So having that kind of home space was really interesting. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
I could jump in.
People might be wondering why a Jewish law student?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't seem to really fit in the other narrative of this is for one specific group of students. This is really broad-based, and we really try to cater to the needs of our members, our most present members. One thing that we did do, it always changes with the administration, so I can't speak on previous administrations, but one thing I've imposed was all food that we have for our event will be kosher. End of story. It was just a decision I felt that needed to happen because other students who were religious were coming to events and they would be given kosher food. So that was something we really focused on it. Now, and I thought that was something that was necessary to address. That being said, I think our biggest goal, when you mentioned what's something we're working towards, is really, I suppose, mobilization. Mobilization, ensuring Jewish students on campus feel like that they could turn to us, and they also make them want to turn to us and want to be involved in our events. Often at times, a lot of the Jewish students are like, oh no, I have school, I can't take off Yom Kippur. Oh, keeping Passover during exam time is so difficult. I don't want to do it. And these are all very legitimate concerns. Law school is stressful, and we've come to realize that. And we want to ensure that the Jewish students on campus feel like they can still have their Jewish identity, however they choose to practice it, while being tied up in school. And that is something that is a legitimate concern, because oftentimes we're also part of other programs, and there is a real rate of lacking in graduate programs, where there are no Hillel or Chabad that really is present for graduate students. There's, you have the federations once you're like married and you have kids and you have the Jewish elementary schools, and while you're growing up, if you go to Jewish high schools, Jewish summer camps, but when you're in that age group of graduate school, there are no affiliated programs. So that's why.
You're in our age group.
Sorry?
You're in our age group.
Yes, technically you're right. I'm only 22. You're right. But in general, the rule of thumb is like the 25, 26, 27-year-olds who are doing their masters and PhDs and whatever, they don't have that access. So the Jewish Law Students Association is there to ensure, at least now, that's how we envision it, to be a supporting aspect and being like, hey, just because you're working a lot and you're working on a PhD or whatever, doesn't mean you have to neglect your duties entirely. We're still here to, whether it be give you Haman Tashins during Purim or to host a Shabbat dinner once a semester, just to keep those ties with your Jewish roots. So I think that's our main goal, is really to be present and remind students on campus, like, hey, you don't have to put a break on your duties, and you don't have to put a break on your Jewish identity just because you're so busy with school. We understand it, and we're here to help.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, because I think a lot of students at McGill who aren't particularly religious might look at something like a Jewish law students or Jewish medicine students and wonder why. We've got a law students and we've got a medicine students. What do we need that extra aspect for? And I think you made some really good points about offering these connections to older students who might be out of the range of some of the other groups, but also just providing an opportunity where it's not an either or for students. It's like a yes and we can be both law students and Jewish students.
Exactly.
And have a space for that. Thanks for sharing.
Of course.
Some of the Laura's mission this year or in recent years. What are the main needs that you see your group focusing on?
The main thing, and I think clearly this is more important now than it normally is building community and giving students a community that they can feel a part of and that they can feel actively engaged in. I have personally experienced this coming to McGill. Again, I'm a first year. We've been sort of dormant for the past couple of months because of a COVID resurgence, but earlier in the year, I was able to come to McGill and come to a few Kabbalat Shabbats, and it was a great way to meet people, and I've made some really great friends through that. There are a few ways that are better to connect with people than eating food together and singing together in someone's home. It's a really special experience. And the other part of that, and the other part of encouraging people to really become part of a community is giving people the tools to engage with that community as they want to. We want you to be engaged, whether that is just singing, whether that's cooking something, and also we, again, despite we're not attached to an institutional framework, but we do get funds through grants. So we actually have some money to run programs if you're interested in running some sort of program and other people are interested in. Just giving students the opportunity to feel really engaged in a Jewish community on campus, and not like passive sort of onlookers, but part of a community.
Community is such a crucial thing, especially everything we've been through with the isolation during COVID. I think a lot of people have come to the point where they've decided they're not going to be taking that for granted anymore. And to be able to put the emphasis on that week to week is really special. It's a really great thing that you group is doing. I'm going to turn over to Matthew for follow up on some more questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. Listening to each group share the goal, the reason for their existence, it's really beautiful because it seems that these groups have been meeting the needs of the students in various ways, the various needs of the students. Your continued existence speaks to the success of the group, right? In some way, or in many ways. So would you highlight one success or two successes that you've had in your group and a challenge? What is the challenge that you've experienced as a Jewish student on campus within a particular group? Just speak to that, successes and the challenges that you've gone through. Anyone can start. It doesn't have to be here this time.
So I think one of McGill's challenges is that obviously COVID, I'm sure that's a challenge for every group. But I would say that one of our challenges is we really try not to get too political, I would say, with conflict. Sometimes people will want us to have an opinion or to state our opinion publicly, and no. I would say our success is we've gotten a lot of new people recently. So that's been really nice to watch the group grow, especially since COVID. I know we did have a lot of people graduate during COVID, so we are still working with it on building the community. Yeah.
During this COVID period, how have you guys built community? How have you sort of build resilience around the challenges that arose because of COVID?
So we've had a lot of Zoom events, and we try to make them as interactive as possible. We really make sure that we talk to everyone, that everyone's opinion heard, everyone feels welcome and stuff. And we also do collaborations with other groups. So in the past, we've done collaborations with like joint events with the Indigenous Students Alliance, with the Muslim Students Association, and actually tomorrow we're having an event with the McGill Dharma Society. They're a newer group on campus. Yeah, they can come. Yeah,
Everybody's welcome. We are promoting the group when we have it.
And so that's been really nice too, to get to work with other groups, for other groups of students, other religions, other ethnicities.
Have you seen any opportunities opened up because of these interfaith dialogues?
Definitely, yeah. You know, it's really great. You get to meet a ton of people. It's good for networking, good for making friends.
Yeah.
And you get to learn about the other group's traditions. And you get to eat the other group's foods, which is one of the best parts.
Yeah, it's always food somewhere, right? Yeah, sorry, we don't have food today because of COVID. We will next time, post-COVID. In the before times there will be a lot of food here right now. Yeah, so yeah, that's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing. What challenges have you guys experienced lately, apart from COVID, of course?
I would say just because of sort of we did have on and off restrictions, I know that was a bit of an issue. We've had, I know, especially recently, there has been a bit of resurgence of COVID in the McGill community. Mostly are self-funded, so we're not SNU affiliated, but we do occasionally get grants similar to McGill.
You write to these people who are somewhere and then they give money and then you run programs. Beautiful. Yeah. Nice. Anyone else want to jump in?
So the JLSA, like Jewish Law Students Association, has had, it's ups and its downs, if you will. One thing that I think I'm very proud of is we actually brought two Jewish law groups on campus together again. So basically, there was a Jewish Law Students Association and there was a Jewish Jurists of Tomorrow. And there's basically, they existed because of ideological differences. Ultimately, I'll just say it, I don't mind saying it. The Jewish Law Students Association in the past was kind of more of a, hey, we're here, everyone has a VP title, just on your CV and that's it. Like they give out bagels at the beginning of the year and then they don't do anything else. Whereas and some members of that group were frustrated and then they created their own group called the Jewish Jurists of Tomorrow. They also had other ideological differences. Jewish Jurists of Tomorrow, JJT, was definitely more conservative and traditional in practice, whereas JLSA didn't really do much, but they claim to be more progressive or reform. Last year, we managed to bring them back together again and create one united JLSA that was way more accepting and way more active. And that was a really big feat for us because it was finally like a reunification, so which was really nice. So yeah, like even among the minority in school, there's still a lot of fighting, right? But it's okay. Apart from that, sibling rivalry, exactly. Yeah, I mean, exactly. You know, there's an expression that's like 2 Jews in a room, 100 opinions. So it's like, it really creates that, it really was like that, but it was a really big feat for us to bring us back together. We also had some pretty amazing events, both over Zoom and in person. A couple of months ago, we ended up volunteer for our monthly mitzvah program, which was we were very excited about that, and that went very well. And had some great speakers come in to speak with both with the Jewish Law Students Association, but also the Muslim Law Students Association and the Christian Law Fellowship. So those have been great as well. And as we just continue to make our way through the pandemic, it really is a lot of management, if you will, in terms of how can we do activities that are fun, that are exciting, but also adhere to COVID guidelines and doesn't make anyone feel too uncomfortable. Yeah, those I suppose are our main highlights and challenges.
Okay. What would you say are the attitude of non-Jewish students on campus towards your group?
It varies. It varies, especially. I find some students are way more accepting than others. Some students feel that Jewish students don't need a presence on campus. They say there's no need for this club. Where I think I like to hope for the best, but some of them are definitely a little more pessimistic towards the existence of this club, of this group. They say there's no need. Whereas others are very accepting. They're like, wow, that sounds super interesting. I can say that there is some involvement. It's usually often friends of members who aren't Jewish, who will come to our events regardless. The Law Students Association, I will say this, has been very, very supportive of our group's existence in this recent year. In the past, not so much, but this year they've been fantastic. I really will say that. And it creates it does cause a bit of like awkwardness at times when certain members, certain people on campus are like, there's no real point for your guys' existence. But in general, it's overall pretty good. I mean, when we'll have holiday events, when we're giving out latkes or hamintashins, for example, to celebrate the events, a lot of non-Jewish students will also come by and ask us what this is about and try to learn a little bit more, not much, but a little bit more about the holiday in question and take whatever we're handing out that day. So yeah, but in general, I would say 90%, 85 to 90% of the student body are more than fine with us being on campus.
Fantastic. Ben, what are your challenges and successes so far?
Yes, the main challenge, I mean, this has come up before, but it's COVID, and related to COVID is continuity. So normally the chavura is something that people come sort of by word of mouth. You meet someone who's in it. They say, hey, you should check this out, and you show up. That's quite a bit more difficult during COVID. Not so many people are meeting in class anymore. Yeah, so it's been a little hard. Some of our most involved members are graduating soon. That said, we've had successes with this as well. A lot of new people have joined or starting to get involved. I'm one of them. Tons of other people, right? Like I'm a first year. I'm part of this organization, and I'm really looking forward, as generally campus life gets back into gear, to bringing more people and encouraging people to come and to join us. So ultimately, I mean, it's been a challenge, but it's also been a success. We're certainly coming out, refreshed.
How's been the feeling of everyone else who's not a member of the Lavura or Jewish students towards your group?
So this is before my time, but the Chavura has done interfaith events before, and I've heard a lot of enthusiasm about doing it again. Apparently, very well. So I would certainly like to organize something like that. Maybe if not at the end of this year, maybe at the start of next year. There are other students, third years, that have very nice stories about that.
Hillel's successes and challenges.
I would say our success is our numbers. We have huge network, so much outreach, so many people meet other people. I have friends from all other universities, other schools in Montreal. And yeah, just meeting people, the events, like when restrictions are less of a thing, like events can bring a really big turnout. And that's really awesome to see. I would say we have two main challenges. One of them is a blessing and a curse. We are attached to larger organizations. So we're funded by Federation, and Federation is on top of us. And there's also Hillel International. Like it's a big thing. That becomes a challenge, especially like when every like post for has to be approved by the marketing team of Federation before we can advertise something. We have to get approval for kind of everything we do, which increases like the time it takes to plan anything. So that is a challenge. And another one of our challenges is pluralism is a challenge. Like I come from a pluralist background, which basically means, I mean, it's kind of what Adam was talking about with siblings, it's accepting of all types of groups, and the realization that no group is right. Like there are lots of different groups. We don't know the right way, but we have to respect that like they think theirs is the right way, and we might think ours is the right way, but they're both ways. And we have to live with it. So because Hillel is non-denominational, it's not technically affiliated with anyone, it's really hard to please everyone. It's hard to make everyone happy. Some people don't want to pray like men and women together. Some people won't like take something if it's done by women. Some people won't accept certain levels of kashrut. Like there are lots of challenges that come with pluralism. But I'm really hopeful that Hillel will offer something for everyone, more spiritual, more social. Sometimes we get more funding for alcohol, like, like something for everyone. Like we have an amazing space. We have staff who do things for us. All we need are people and allow the possibility to do it.
What is the attitude of non-Jewish students towards your group?
Pretty positive, I would say. The ones who know about it, people bring their friends all the time. People are connected. I would say a lot of kind of McGill student groups are hesitant to maybe want to partner or work with us because of our affiliations with larger groups, or even those connections might not even be approved because we're connected to something else. So we're kind of restricted with how much choice, how much initiative students can take. But generally, like if you work hard to plan an event, if you as a student put in most of the work, it'll happen. Like the problem is if you rely on someone else to do it, then it won't happen.
I think what is beautiful is coming out of your contribution, all of you, is this attempt from your groups to reach out to non-Jews, to work together, this interfaith relationship, this community building with people across campus. I think that's really beautiful to see about that. And to see that the contribution just goes beyond your constituency, I think is fascinating and encouraging to hear, despite the challenges that are there. I'm going to pass now to Colleen to, continue into the future.
This is our last official question for the panel, and then we can open up to guests if they'd like to ask. But I want to echo what Matthew said about how impressive it is to see all this energy that's going into keeping these groups going and creating programming that are really relevant to today, despite challenges, despite the mixed bag of blessings of being a large group or a small group. There's so much energy and potential. And I think students who aren't particularly religious, who might be listening tonight, might be really surprised that, faith-based groups aren't just about, religious services, they're not just about prayer, but there's a lot more going on that connects people together, connects people with the community and across different faiths as well. So our final question for you is really kind of an opportunity to dream and to look into the future. We are recording, so maybe we can consider this like almost a little time capsule for 2022.
Play it back.
So you imagine yourselves, it's 2042, you're coming back for, 15, 20 years of your graduation. And what would be your hope? What would you hope to find on campus for Jewish students? And what do you think your group would be doing? Maybe you have some kids by then. Not quite ready to start McGill.
Can I start? The Hillel house was just renovated. We weren't actually able to use it last semester. So it's a brand new building, or not, it's a brand new interior. So there's a lot of potential there. I hope to see robust involvement, all types of events, all different things. And I think it's also important to remember that, yes, we're faith-based groups, but Judaism is not just a faith, it's a culture, it's a people, it's more than that. And so these groups are not only faith-based groups. And something that I also think it's important to note, especially like coming from my personal background and my involvement with Hillel, one organization can't please everyone. And while it's important to have places to come together and to be accepting of all types of denominations and all backgrounds, it's important that specific groups also have places to gather on their own. This is why it's important that there's a Reform group. It's important that there's a more Orthodox group. It's important that there's a J-queer, a Jewish queer group. Like, these things are all important. I don't want to encourage everyone to just come together and form one big conglomerate. Like, that's not what we want. We want to encourage and empower people to be confident in their own business.
It's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that vision. I'd like to go next with their dream for 20 years ahead.
Going off of what Abia said, I would actually like to do relations with other Jewish groups. I think that'd be really nice. Definitely in the future, I can see McGill as having more members, having like more of a bigger presence, I guess, on campus. And one of the ways that I would love to see that get done is, by doing maybe events with McGill Chavra or McGill Hillel or McGill Jewish Law Students Association if there are law students. I'm not sure. Are you guys undergrad too? Or?
Mostly just grad students.
Oh, okay.
There's a series of CJEP
CJEP,
students.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It'd also definitely be cool to have people from other universities too. Right now it is mostly McGill, but we are open for most of our events for people from California to come, for people from UCAM or UDM, any of the Montreal universities. Also, one of our big things that we do is Havdalahs. So Havdalah is the celebration, a ceremony that's done at the end of Shabbat, just to separate it from the rest of the week. And I would love to see that still going on, for future generations and stuff.
Hopefully in 20 years, we won't still be wearing that.
Oh,
That's one big change I think we're all looking forward to. And looking ahead to even for some issues maybe that might be near and dear to law students, like Bill 21, for example. What would you hope to find in 20 years coming back to McGill?
So Bill 21, we have made efforts to campaign against Bill 21 alongside the Muslim Law Students Association and even Christian Law Legal Fellowship. We have made our own efforts to campaign, and we've had walk demonstrations in front of Palais de Justice. Right now, everything's tied up in the courts, so we can get into a whole. This isn't the point of it. It's not a whole conversation about Bill 21 and how it's going to happen and the unfortunate situation that is our legal system. That's not what we're here to talk about. We could totally have a conversation about that. I mean, look, I'd love to make sure that the JLSA is still active and still fighting for these kinds of Jewish rights and combating anti-Semitism on campus and just within Montreal as a whole, and leveraging their position and privilege within the legal framework to continue pushing for access to justice and human rights. On a more personal note, one of my biggest goals, and it's never sat well with me, a little rival between the UDM and McGill, and I guess it trickles down to UDM and UDM JLSA and McGill JLSA, for a faculty with McGill has significantly more Jewish students than UDM. That's just like a fact, and in law at least. And UDM every year, I mean before COVID at least, every year throws the most immaculate Shabbat dinners ever. Like I swear to you, I don't even understand how they do it. Though I've attended one of them, right? I think that was the JLSA at UDM. Yeah, they throw fantastic Shabbat dinners to the point where they get a Supreme Court justice. I went and they had the newly appointed Supreme Court justice just there, just talking and just eating dinner with everyone. And I said, wow, our JLSA event, our JLSA Shabbat dinner had maybe 15 people.
So
lot. That's
is a
really
lot.
good.
The EDM JLSA Shabbat dinner had 300 people. So there's a big difference. And I thought to myself, I said, wow, why don't we do that? And my goal, I mean, this is just before COVID, and I was like, we can do this. And then COVID hit, and I said, wow, I don't know if we can have 300 people in the same room now. But that's besides the point. I would love to go back to it. I would love, really, 20 years down the line, I would love to be invited to a McGill JLSA Shabbat dinner and walk in to see 500 people sitting down and talking with a Supreme Court justice. It was really a fantastic experience. And I'll say also, the amount of non-Jewish people who attended that Shabbat dinner was beyond me. I was taken aback by honestly how many people were at my table alone saying, yeah, we're not Jewish. We just come here because it's such a fantastic event. We love being a part of, we love being invited to this in the first place. That is my goal. That is my own personal goal. Obviously, I'd love to see the JLSA continue their social activism, but really, that's my personal goal 20 years down the line, to see the JLSA, McGill JLSA, have Shabbat dinners that really rival that of the EDM. So that's a McGill pride for all of us.
Exactly, some good McGill pride and good aspirational goals there for the executives of the community.
Maybe you'll be the justice to visit the.
To be invited as a speaker. I don't know about Supreme Court justice. You never know.
20 years ahead, and Jewish life in general.
Yeah, it's hard to think so far ahead when the sort of nature of your organization is very much on a micro level, on a personal level. But certainly there are things I'd love to see and things that people have been talking about and working towards in the group. Some of these learning, doing some more Jewish learning together, volunteering. Those are the two main ones I can think of. I already talked about doing interfaith events. I'd love to do some of that soon. You mentioned collaborating. I think we did for Ash. Was I think McGill, Chavura, and McGill collaboration. So more of that. Amazing. In terms of sort of the group itself, like seeing an expansion of the Kabbalat Shabbat specifically and spiritual events in general. Actually, the events that we have held this year, the ones in person, have been very successful. It's brought, I don't know, at least 30 people to most of them. So just being able to do more of that and to bring enough people in so that like every Shabbat or every other Shabbat, someone is like, yeah, we can use my house for this. That would be amazing. That would be really great to see.
Can I add a goal for all of McGill? On Ben's note, Chabad is currently the only place that does Shabbat every week. And that room is not big enough for all the groups at McGill. I hope in 20 years that there are more options, more regular and consistent options, because Shabbat doesn't happen once a month or once a semester. It happens every week, whether we like it or not. And we should be able to do something about it. Let's do Shabbat.
Maybe for the sake of people who may not understand something about Shabbat in your faith, people who are not necessarily aware of the practices. A little bit explain a little bit about it.
I mean, Shabbat, it's a lot of people's favorite part of Judaism. It's the day of rest. God created the world in 7 days. The seventh day is the rest day. So that Saturday, which it begins on Friday night, so you start with a Friday night dinner, a service called Kabbalat Shabbat. You welcome the Shabbat. And from that Friday night until the sun goes down on Saturday night, it is a holy day. It's a day of rest. You're not supposed to do work. That is, if you observe it, of course. And then it ends with a Havdalah ceremony, which is, it literally means separation, to separate the sacred day from the profane week.
Thank you for sharing all of these visions. And like I said, we've recorded it, so we have the opportunity to go back in 20 years and see how much of this has come true. Hopefully most.
I just want, can I talk to the audience?
Yes.
I just want you watching to know that no matter what type of Jew you are, there are lots of Jews at McGill who aren't involved in any Jewish club, who don't come to these things. But there is a place for you, and there are, like, I want there to be involvement, because I think cultural, what's it called? Cultural connection is really valuable. Solidarity,
important because everyone is, like you said, there's such a diversity within the Jewish community. There are many more groups on campus that aren't represented here tonight. And within each of those groups, everybody's got their own individual story and way of being. So we know that we only ever speak for ourselves. And I want to thank you all for speaking so eloquently tonight on behalf of yourselves and of your involvement as leaders in Jewish life here on campus. We do have some questions that have come in from the audience. So we can turn it over to some Q&A. We've got a few minutes for that. We have Xiao Han, who's been asking us a little bit about are your groups McGill University specific? How much flexibility is there for students from other institutions to participate? And where are your spaces located when you do have events? So anyone who'd like to take that up?
I mean, yeah, just JLSA is open to everyone and anyone and everyone really. Whether you're Jewish or not, whether you're in law school or not, if you're interested in the event, you're more than welcome to attend. The only limitations are you have to be a law student in order to assume any executive position within the club, within the association, and certain events where the law student association is funding it, then it becomes a little difficult to determine exactly how involved you can be. But in general, if you want to attend an event, whether it be on an interfaith panel, whether it be on Judaism and law and their intersectionality, or any other event, anyone is welcome. Everyone is welcome. We encourage you to come.
We have people from other schools who come and join us. There's really no hard cap or limit in any which way. Please join us. I think you already got a good sense of the spaces that we work in, so that's our situation.
People's homes. So
People's homes.
sign up, get to know people, and then you might get an invite.
Well, we're now you don't need to wait for an invite, right? These things are announced. There's a group chat. If you want to join the group chat, you can see through the group chat. There's also an Instagram where we'll be letting people know.
So on McGill's events, we have both McGill specific and events for everyone in Montreal. And for our events for everyone in Montreal, you can join our group chat. You can follow our Instagram page, follow our Facebook page. We regularly post our events on Facebook, and we really try to get that out to people that we have events happening.
Yes, where you guys located?
Oh, and we we're sort of similar to McGill Chavurah. We operate out of people's houses, usually one of our board members. And during COVID, we've also been doing outdoor events. Hopefully, we're going to be able to do more of that once the weather gets nicer.
We also do a lot of stuff outside. We can. KL does have a building now. I think I've said it 9 times. It's like 2 blocks that way.
What's the address?
I don't know. It's like
Oh, okay. On Stanley Street.
it's like up the hill, like up. It's across from one of the frats. I think one of them has letters on it. So yes, there is a house. There is a building, and kids from all schools come, and even non-students are sometimes involved for sure.
Yeah, let's say where do you guys meet?
So JLSA, we used to have a space a couple of years ago, and McGill Law has been under construction, and that space is now all the club spaces are basically gone. We move around quite a bit. We have a Facebook and Instagram page. You can follow us at Jewish Law Students Association on Facebook and on Instagram. And I mean, ultimately, our spaces vary, right? Whether it be at times it was in classrooms or in certain halls, depending. Other times we're out and about in the community giving back at certain places where they need volunteers, such as the Family Store, MATA, which are both community organizations, usually food banks. So it really depends. It really depends on the event. Lately, with COVID, we've basically been over Zoom, and other times we're just in the atrium. Sorry, think of it as the lobby of the faculty giving out food. So it really depends. It really depends on the event. But make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram to stay up to date. Group chats.
You don't want to be on the same group.
I love group chats.
Do we have any questions from our audience here in the room?
In person?
Thanks for the presentation.
contribution, by the way.
Do any of you have questions for each other?
Yeah. Kind of. Oh, when's your next thing is happening? That's my
We
next
actually have
question.
an event tomorrow. Tom McGill and McGill Drama Society are doing collaboration. It's over Zoom. If anyone wants the Zoom link, I can. Actually, it's posted on Facebook and it's on our Facebook page, which I believe, did you post?
We posted
Yep.
it as well.
And it's really open to anyone who wants to come. I know there are even professors at McGill who aren't like necessarily affiliated with either of our groups who are joining, just because it's going to be a really interesting event. I'm personally really excited to learn about Dharmic religions, just because I don't really know a lot about them.
That's really cool. Really cool. I will definitely try to check that out. Yeah, no, JLSA does not have any events. Unfortunately, we're nearing, we're in courses, we're in interview applications and stuff like that. So basically, the entire faculty is pretty much dead until after exams, from about mid-March until after exams. There, it's dead. No one does any events. People are very, very stressed and very anxious about school. So we just decide no events because we'll get like a little bit of it. We won't get a big turnout. We had a great event last Monday, yeah, where we had a CEO of a production company. We teamed up with the Sports and Entertainment Law Association and had a CEO of a production company come in and speak to us, talk about how Judaism fits into his work. Every year there's a Talmudic law class offered, so Judaic law, and we try to get involved with the professor there. There's also a couple of Jewish law court cases that we get involved in. We promote this year. We did because of the time that it started, we weren't able to get involved, but usually we get involved and try to get involved with the high school competitions as well. But unfortunately, this year, due to COVID, everything ran late, and it's all happening in April. So that's basically our dead period. But in general, like look forward to next year where we have ideally COVID is less intense, and we already have some Shabbat dinners planned, locked in for next year and stuff like that.
Any events to share?
Nothing planned at the moment. Keep an eye out on the Instagram. Ask to join the group chat if you'd like. You can DM the Instagram. Hopefully they're something soon.
We've got some holidays coming up, right? We've got Passover, not too far away. Probably, I shouldn't have said that because now we just finished.
I've been thinking about it since November.
Wow.
Just for Purim, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious, was that the J brush, the brush that the Jewish brush?
I did it and it was on Zoom because it was last year, so I don't think it was very fun. I mean, I met people too.
And so I will admit, I'm a little bit new to the board. My first, I guess, term on the board, other than a little bit of last semester. But I have heard from all of the people who've done JFrosh, especially when it's in person, that it's really fun. It's a great opportunity to meet people and to figure out which Jewish groups you want to be involved in, to find events happening on campus, and to find your community.
Bringing back Frosh.
Yeah.
I like that you said which groups, plural, you want to be involved in, because I've noticed that a lot of students in the Jewish community we speak to say, oh yeah, I go there sometimes, and I go there, and I go there. And there's a lot of cross-pollination among the students.
I believe Hillel is having a Havdalah this Saturday night, but I know that it's something outside of me. A Shabbaton is being planned where like we're all agreeing to like go to Chabad on Friday night together and like do something together, and like we'll all go to the Havdalah together. So it'll be good.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
We try to do that JLSA Shabbat dinner once in a while, but it's Friday.
Chabad is every week.
Yeah, no, Chabad goes every week, but the Hillel event is this Friday.
It's on Saturday night.
On Saturday.
Yeah, I think we've been doing Havdalah for the past few weeks. Enjoyed it.
We have the space now. I think one of the biggest restrictions was not having the house to gather in, right?
We were doing everything outside last semester, and there was one Shabbat dinner that we wanted to have, and it was too cold. We didn't want to do it outside. So our staff and our lovely team found this like room to rent in like some building, and we rented it.
You should come to the Newman Center. I think they're open to other clubs too.
What is the Newman Center?
It's on Peel.
Appeal? What is that?
Oh, it's the NCS, Newman Catholic Student Society's home base.
Really cool.
They actually have like a soup and bagels lunch, little cafe that they've opened.
Yeah, I know that also, I know Warsaw has an interfaith prayer space, but the SSMU approached us earlier this year with the desire to create another on-campus interfaith prayer space. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah, there's gonna be another room, and we requested that it be available for renting. Basically.
All right, we've got comments saying really interesting. Thank yous. Wonderful. Wonderful talks. So lots of gratitude coming in and appreciation for your words tonight. Thank you on behalf of Matthew and I as well for taking time out of your busy schedule and your evening to come and offer these insights. It's super, super interesting for us to hear. And because again, we've recorded it, we'll be able to share these insights with other students. Maybe students considering McGill would be interested in hearing a little bit about what it's like to be a Jewish student on campus and what's available. Thank you so much for sharing.
Any,
For having us.
any last words from anyone? Any final comments?
I mean, listen, it's I would say get involved. Anyone watching this contemplating going to McGill and whose Jewish identity is very important to them, like get involved. There's so many ways. Like this is not just everyone, and so many other groups that maybe aren't even formally recognized at McGill that are still very involved in the Jewish community. And there's also you meet friends who are Jewish in classes, and you meet friends who aren't Jewish in classes, and it's a great experience to be able to be Jewish on campus and to be present and have those affiliations on campus. And I think it's I think I would not be as comfortable as I am currently at McGill without these affinity groups, and really without these I would say affinity groups, sure, but also these great opportunities to meet new people and make new friends. I've made a lot of my friends through different organizations at McGill, both Jewish and non-Jewish. So definitely good idea to get involved regardless.
Especially if you're a Montrealer. Montrealers often have their own families, their own home communities. They say we don't need to join a Jewish group, we just go home for everything. Yes, you do. Or you don't need to. But it's really meaningful to connect with like your peers on a spiritual level. It's like going to family places. Like when I go to a real synagogue, it's always so different than being in a student space. There is something to be said. So Montrealers, don't be shy.
Back that
Stay
up,
with me.
Montreal.
Yeah. Sleep on my couch.
All right, well, I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you again. I think we have to stop it over here.